Final round. Fight. Flawless victory.
What's going on, everybody? Flawless victory.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to Sports Drip Live alongside my brother Enrique Contreras. My name's Jose Contreras, and we are live.
Live, baby.
Live, yes. Back again. We're live. We haven't been live in a while, Ricky, but we're live this time. You guys have been watching our past recordings on Facebook, but here we are. And man, we have a lot to talk about today. UFC 280 in the books this past Saturday night, Ricky, and what a card it was. It was a card I was really excited about coming into it because of obviously the huge implications. We had 2 title fights and even a fight that was going to name a number 1 contender, right? And we'll get into that in a bit. So we're definitely going to get into some UFC 280. We'll get into some wrestling because there's always wrestling news to talk about.
Always.
Always. And then, maybe we can start off with the sad. I don't want to end sadly, but we can start off with sad news, Ricky. Kevin Nash lost his son recently. We'll start off this way to get this out the way. You know what I mean? That way we kind of end on a positive note. But Kevin Nash losing his son, and man, what a year, a tough year it's been for him, man. To lose someone like his best friend Scott Hall, and then to lose his son in the same year, it has to be one of the toughest things anybody could go through.
Yeah, man. No parent should ever have to bury their child. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then not to mention too that he lost his son. His name was Tristan. He lost his son ironically on Scott Hall's birthday.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God.
I mean, it's one of the the craziest things, man, that you ever hear. He lost his best friend Scott Hall back in the summer. The guy that he said he spent the most time of his life with. Them two being on the road in WWE and WCW, and then to lose his son, who worked with him on his podcast called Click This, which is very good, good podcast. I recommend it. Kevin Nash doing, he has a lot of the man has a lot of stories.
Yeah.
Going back to his wrestling career, even when he used to be a basketball player in his college years. Believe it or not, believe it because this is a guy that's almost 7 feet tall, but he has a lot of stories on his Click This podcast. His son worked with him on it, and he just revealed. I just saw the article today that he just revealed the cause of death of his son was a seizure that was fatal. And this was stemming from actually, alcohol abuse that his, alcohol struggles that his son was going through, that he himself, Kevin Nash, was also going through. And I guess they decided to clean up, go cold turkey, dropping the booze, and I guess it affected him that much as far as his son, and this happened.
Right.
And one of the things I saw in the interview, he said that I lost my best friend, and I lost my son to alcohol, and he was trying to spread the word that alcohol is a drug, and just to stay away from it as much as possible, if at all, if stay away from it. Period.
Yeah, I mean, even drinking it moderately, can have negative effects, but to be addicted to it and to consume it, the way they were, it basically costing their lives. Definitely, it's something that can't be misdiagnosed, mistreated, or just something you can't ignore. That can't be ignored. Basically, you know what I mean?
Right.
And yeah, you're right. No parent should bury their child, and the fact that he had to deal with that on his best friend's birthday, who also passed away this year. It had, man, that tough.
Basically from the same thing too. Just alcohol abuse, and that's basically where it all stems from. So it's tough, man. It's my heart goes out to Kevin Nash and his family. Especially him going the kind of year that he has, man. I hope he comes out of this very strong, man.
Yeah, I'm sure he would. One thing we know about Kevin Nash, the guy, this guy in general is just he's a tough man in general,
Yeah.
you know. So definitely for sure. But yeah, you guys listen to Sports Drip Live podcast. You know, I wanted to kind of get that out the way because we have a great show. We have a great show today, but we wanted to get serious for a moment, kind of, you know, go down that road. That way we can now then talk about what's at hand, Ricky, which is UFC 280 in
Right.
the books. Just happened this past Saturday, and wow, this was a card I really enjoyed watching. It was a card, because I was excited for, just like I mentioned in the beginning of the show. I was really excited for. It didn't disappoint.
No.
It did not disappoint one bit. And let's get right into it, man. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about. I think we could just talk. We could talk about. Let's talk about the. I guess let's talk about the first match. Petr Yan, Sean O'Malley are the three main fights, right? We'll get into the other two, but the three main fights. Let's talk about first and foremost. Petr Yan, Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley came in ranked what, the 11th? Was he 11th guy or was he 6th?
I believe he was 11th. Yeah,
He was 11th.
Ranked
Going
11th.
against the number one ranked fighter in that division, Ricky. Petr Yan, who we know is a previous champion, somebody that you could have probably said, you know, he should be champion today. We know how he lost the title, and then even the second fight between him and Aljamain Sterling was so close. You could have said Petr Yan deserved that championship,
right?
And now he's going against, I guess, the prodigy or the favorite, right? Sean O'Malley, somebody who was getting. How can I say this? How would you put it? Somebody who was
getting somebody who.
How can you describe Sean O'Malley? His journey.
His journey. Somebody that, I mean, you could say he was protected in a way, you know, as far as he was, you know, the UFC was taking their time with this guy, giving him some opponents to try to build him up. You know, he did reach up to the 11th in the rankings, and then, you know, this guy. I mean, not to mention this guy has a personality. He's very unorthodox, and you know, he has a big presence on YouTube. He has his own gaming channel as well on the side as well. Right. So you know, he's a big personality. He's a personality, and he's a guy that the UFC sees something in. So when they announced that he was going to fight a former champion, a guy who's number one in the rankings, you know, me myself, I looked at this and I'm like, okay, it's interesting, but you know, it's interesting in that, you know, now he's finally going to get tested and he's going to fight. He's basically thrown in there with the sharks, in the ocean with the sharks, and to see how he does. And boy, not only did he do well, man, he exceeded at least my expectations. Like he looked very well in there against Petr Yan. He beat Petr Yan, I think, more than anyone has ever in this division. To be quite honest, he hurt him. He hurt
him. And it was a back and forth. I mean, Sean O'Malley, even after the fight, said that, you know, this was the first time he even got hurt. And I'm glad you said he was protected in a way. Coming into the UFC, Dana White seen something in this kid. He knew this kid could fight. He knew his stand-up was legit. And you saw that because every opponent that was put in front of him, he either knocked out or dominated right away. Right. Now, the thing was, we all knew that these were opponents that he should have been, you know, knocking out and putting away. Right. But that also, so like, you know, UFC was kind of feeding him opponents to kind of build his brand, build his name, so that way they could profit off it. And smart strategy, right? If you're Dana White in the UFC, you need to build stars.
Exactly.
Right. Conor McGregor isn't fighting right now.
Right. They're doing the same thing with Paddy Pimblett right now in the lightweight division.
Yep,
they're building 100%. That dude up. You know what I'm saying?
You need another Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz type fighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, and then so this was kind of like it's kind of like the same thing also with Khamzat Chimaev. That guy was just beating dudes up. They were feeding these guys. He was beating them up, man. A lot of lower ranked fighters until 100%. They finally put him in there with Gilbert Burns, and he got tested for the very first time. And not only that, but he won. He delivered. He's the real deal, and he belongs in the top of the top.
That's a great example.
Yeah, and the same thing with Sean O'Malley. We saw it right here, bro. He belongs in that number one spot that he just got. As you know, as the rankings say right now, he's number one in the rankings. He took Petr Yan's spot. So, and this was a back and forth fight. Petr Yan, you know, like I've always said, this. I mean, I picked this guy to win, and for good reason. This guy was in there, and he put the pressure on Sean O'Malley in this fight.
Yep.
He was putting on the pressure. He was putting the wrestling on him. But Sean O'Malley, like it's just like you said, high level striker. This guy was precise in his strikes. He hurt Petr Yan many times. Yan also hurt him too. But I think it was also that knee. It was a nasty knee that he landed in the third round that I think that opened up a deep cut over Yan's, I believe, his right eye.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that might have sealed the deal because it was a close first round. The second round, I gave it to Yan. The third one, I think, was also pretty close, even though I also could see that Yan won that fight just by the pressure and the wrestling alone. I thought he might have won slightly, but I do not hate the decision that O'Malley won because it could have gone out of the way.
Yep, absolutely, Ricky. O'Malley put up in a big way, taking a split decision win over former champion and current, or well, not anymore. I'm sorry, former champion and former number 1 ranked bantamweight fighter Petr Yan, and it was a fast-paced fight from the jump, which both men were bloodied and hurt, but all 3 judges scored 29-28, with 2 of those judges going for O'Malley, the other one going for Petr Yan. And there's a lot of people that said Petr Yan should have won that fight, but I personally, Ricky, I said it. O'Malley won this fight, and you said it, right? You mentioned it, but from the jump, you knew this fight was going to be different. I was thinking right away, okay, the first round is going to be very telling, right? Because just as you said, we've never seen Sean O'Malley in this type of fight with this type of fighter before. Similar to Khamzat Chimaev when he went against Gilbert Burns, that was a great test for him to see if he was even ready to be in that spotlight. It was the same exact thing for Sean O'Malley. We needed to see what he can do with competition, with legit competition. And he got the number 1 ranked guy, former champion in Petr Yan, who we knew is big time.
Big time. He was going to bring the fight to him.
We knew it, yes. And this was the one fight I was like, damn, if I'm Sean O'Malley, if there's anybody I don't want to fight right now, it's someone like Petr Yan. But credit to Sean O'Malley for coming in, and not only did he wasn't afraid to stand up because we knew that's his strength, but Ricky, his takedown offense right away early. You've seen Petr Yan try to take him down and go wrestling because even he respected the stand-up game for Sean O'Malley. Yes. For him to try to go and take him down and for Sean O'Malley to stuff it, to defend it well was eye pop. It was impressive to say the least.
It was. I mean, it answered a lot of questions about Sean O'Malley. A lot of people were saying he doesn't deserve this spot. He doesn't deserve a title shot. Yeah, he needs to find someone in the top 6 or someone in the top 10 or top 5, something like that, but not the number 1 guy. But they put him in there to see what he does and how he did, and he delivered. Man, he hurt Petr Yan more than anybody has. Any other fighter in this division, not even Aljamain Sterling hurt him that bad. Right. The champ, not even he did that. So that says a lot right there. That tells you that this guy is big time. As O'Malley is big time, and he's ready to come for that title.
Yeah, he's ready. I mean, this again, whether you think Sean O'Malley won or lost, you cannot deny his performance and what he was able to do against someone.
And I'm one of those. I'm one of those that believe that Yan won this fight. I thought Yan won the fight, to be honest.
Okay,
slightly.
Explain that to me why, because I find it confusing. Because I get why. I think it was perfect split decision. It should have been a split decision.
Yeah, it definitely was.
And I agree with you that I think maybe Sean O'Malley got the nod because Yan was bloody. Yan was open.
Yeah, in that third round, he hurt him pretty bad with that knee. Yeah.
Yes, and it looked like he was getting hurt. Mm-hmm. But I don't. Although, man, Yan, this is back-to-back fights where Yan is in a close fight and still lost. So you got to feel for the guy, but it's a fight. This is the name of the game, right?
It is.
No one's gonna feel bad for you. But I get you can make a case for him winning, but I want to know why. Like, why do you, Ricky, say he should have won?
Because he was really putting the pressure on O'Malley. He was backing him up in the cage and the wrestling. He took him down and he kept him down there for a while, until O'Malley eventually did get back up.
Yeah.
So, but I thought takedowns counted. I don't know what's going. I don't know.
It's not just takedowns. It's control time. It's also control time.
It's also control time. Yes, I forgot to mention that. That is.
But he had that. He had way more control time than Sean O'Malley. Didn't even have a minute, and I think Petr Yan had like close to 5 minutes worth of control time.
Yeah, and I think O'Malley landed the more significant strikes. I think that was what the statistics said. after
Yeah,
the
yeah, he
fight.
did.
So he
He did.
landed the more yeah, the more the better, the harder strikes.
Yep.
So yeah, that's why I feel that Jan won the fight. He had more control time with the wrestling and the clinching against the, or he had him. You know, he was putting the pressure too. He was backing him up.
Yep.
So I thought slightly, you know, because I agree with the split decision, that it was a split decision between, it was a close fight. It could have gone either way, but it's like I said, I don't hate the decision. I don't hate that O'Malley one. I seen far more robberies, worse robberies.
Yeah.
Than, you
Yeah,
know what
for
I'm saying?
sure.
And this wasn't a robbery. This could have gone the other way. I just felt that Jan slightly won the fight, but it is what it is, and it's happened. And O'Malley's in line for a title shot.
I would have been okay if Jan won the fight. I would have no issue if it would have went that way.
Yeah.
But I knew it from the jump. I was like, if this is a close fight and if this goes to decision, there's no way Sean O'Malley loses.
And not
You
to
don't-
mention the crowd was pro Piotr Jan. That
Oh
night.
hell yeah!
They were chanting it. So you would think
We
that-
weren't in America, and if it was in America, it'd be the other way around.
Yeah, you would think you would think that if it went to a split decision, that Piotr Jan would have got that, because he's not from Abu Dhabi, but the crowd was fully behind him. Was fully behind him, and you would have thought the judges would have been swayed that way too, but I guess not.
Well, no. Well, see, that's the thing. I said it. I was like, dude, if this goes a distance and it's a close fight, there's no way Sean O'Malley loses, because you don't do what you did. You don't protect him his entire career so far in the UFC. You don't feed him. I don't want to say easy opponent, because there's no such thing as an easy opponent, but winnable fights. You don't give him winnable fights and then skyrocket him to the number 1 ranked guy when he's ranked number 11th. He hasn't even cracked the top 10 yet, but you're already giving him to the number 1 ranked guy. You don't do that without having a plan in place for this guy. So I said, if this goes the distance, there's no way he loses by decision. I'm just glad it was a close enough fight, and I'm just glad that he at least proved that he belonged. And that's the one thing I can say. He belonged in that fight against Piotr Jan.
He did.
And he brought the fight, man.
And I said the same thing too. Like, even if he lost the fight, which I felt before the decision was made that Jan won the fight, I said to myself, like, even though O'Malley is probably going to lose this fight, a close fight, that he showed that he definitely belonged, and he's going to come back. He's a force. He's going to be in the thick of it here in this division, no matter what, whether win or lose. He proved it. He proved it.
Yeah, and how poetic is the fight after that happened to be the bantamweight championship fight between Aljamain Sterling and TJ Dillashaw. And we'll talk more about Sean O'Malley and what happens, with the win. But let's get into this fight real, Ricky, because this is also a very important fight. Yeah. This was the culminating event of the evening, championship fight. Aljamain Sterling, we know how he won the title. It was very controversial with his qualification from Piotr Jan. Aljamain Sterling won the fight, came back the next fight against Piotr Jan in the rematch, and I thought, similar to the Sean O'Malley, I thought won decisively, but you could have went the other way and said Piotr Jan won that fight too.
Yeah.
But Aljamain Sterling nonetheless was a champion, and he defended against someone like TJ Dillashaw. But this fight, Ricky, wasn't controversial. At least it was.
It kind of was.
It kind of was
on Dillashaw's part.
Yes, on Dillashaw's part. Yes.
Yes.
But if you're Aljamain Sterling, you did what you had to do. For those who are asking, Aljamain Sterling won by TKO, but from the jump, as soon as this fight started, you seen TJ Dillashaw in pain, and that's because his shoulder popped out, and it was popping out repeatedly throughout the fight. Come to find out, it was popping out the entire camp coming up to the fight,
and he said nothing about it.
Said nothing about it. Well, I mean, you're a fighter. You fight.
Right.
I get it, but he did himself a disservice, and Aljamain Sterling dominated him, man. What did you see in this fight?
I mean, yeah, that the only thing that I saw in this fight was, Dillashaw's shoulder kept popping out. I think the first time I saw it was when Sterling landed a takedown.
Yeah,
and when he was defending, you could see it pop right out.
It was right away.
It was almost right away, and immediately you saw the grimace on his face. It was. I thought he wasn't going to survive that first round, because Sterling was all over him. Sterling was all over him, and Dillashaw could barely defend himself with one hand. But it went to the second round, and we saw more of the same. And Sterling, even Sterling's corner was telling him, like, "Hey, his shoulder popped out. Go after that shoulder." wisely he did, because that's what you do. You're a fighter. You
Yeah.
gotta go. You gotta attack the weakness, and you gotta win this
It-
fight. And that's what he
Look,
did.
Aljamain Sterling Ricky's had one of the most bizarre title reigns so far, right? But to his credit, none of that has been to his doing. Let's be honest. You know what I mean?
It's not.
None of that has been to his doing. All he does is keep winning. Whether it's legitimate or not, that's all he does is keep winning. So you can't blame him for that, right? And Dillashaw, as we mentioned, his left shoulder popped out of its socket early in the first round and had to be put back in between. And credit to Dillashaw, because that you have to be one tough son of a gun to go through the entire 5-minute round with your shoulder popped out of place, and the guys just wailing on you on top of you. Just oh man, it was tough.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll give him credit for being tough. For his showing his toughness, going in there, fighting with one arm, and popping it back in, and try, just fighting the fight that he wanted. But
Right.
I have to criticize him a little bit, man, because apparently he revealed that this was going on throughout his training camp.
Yeah.
Right. It was a major problem. He let the referee. Apparently he let the referee know. I think so. So that way he doesn't stop the fight. But apparently he didn't let Dana White and the rest of the UFC know. Here's the thing, man. I'm all about fighters wanting to fight, and toughness and all this, man. But when something like that is happening repeatedly in training camp, that's when you got to realize, man, that hey, as much as you don't want to, you probably need to pull out of the fight.
Yeah. So
Because you're not gonna come in 100%.
Nope.
You're gonna come in basically fighting in one arm. When a serious injury like that is going on, and when you do that, in a way, you're cheating the fans out of a potential great fight. Which, let's be honest, this fight was pretty disappointing. I expected more. I expected it to be a little more competitive, and because of that, it wasn't. You know what I mean? And you also cheat out the rest of the roster, or the rest of the fighters in the division, who are more than willing and ready to step up and take your place, and for you to heal up and come back. You're gonna get your shot. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna get it because you had to pull out of training camp. You will eventually get your shot back at the title, especially since you're TJ Dillashaw, who never lost the title.
right.
He was stripped of the title, so he would have got it back out of the way. I have to criticize him for that, because he cheated a lot of people out of a potential great fight.
More importantly, Ricky. More importantly, he cheated himself out of that.
That too, yeah.
You do yourself a disservice knowing that you have a clear injury. If you're saying it popped out the entire training camp to this fight, what makes you think it's not going to pop out in the fight when you're going more than 110%? When you have a guy who's literally trying to take you out.
Yeah.
What makes you think it's not going to happen?
Especially if he sees that happening. He's going to go after it, man. He's going to want to win this fight. He doesn't want to L on his record. He's going to go after your weakness. If he sees your shoulder popping out, going after your arm, I'm surprised he didn't try to go for a Kimura.
Right.
I'm surprised that Sterling didn't try to go for a Kimura or for an armbar or something like that, just to try to immediately make TJ tap out. So that was, but either way, man, yeah, he did a disservice to himself. He went in there, and honestly, I think he also kind of did a disservice to Sterling, because now the story becomes, hey, well, you won the fight, yeah, but you beat a one-armed man. So even the questions that we had about Aljamain Sterling coming into this fight kind of still remain for me.
It does kind of still remain, but again, he did what he had to do.
Yeah.
The one thing about Petr Yan, the second fight, is you seen him. He was a lot more confident in himself and in his game plan. And we know this guy's strength, his bread and butter, is the ground game. It's being able to wrestle. It's being able to take guys down. And then when he's on top, he is a specialist when it comes to that ground game, Ricky. And I mean, it was no different. It was no different this fight. I think even if Dillashaw was 100%,
yeah, it could have
that would have been an issue regardless. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it probably could have. He probably could have still won he probably would end up still winning the fight, maybe in the same way, but because of that injury, we're not 100%, right?
Yeah.
So it still leaves that question right there. Did Sterling, did he win because of that, or is he the real deal? Now we gotta look to his next fight to see what Sterling, what he really is. Because like you said, he's had one of the most bizarre title reigns in the UFC. He already came into this fight with that reputation, and then this doesn't help. This didn't help. in my opinion.
Nope. Sterling beat former champion TJ Dillashaw via TKO at 3 minutes and 44 seconds of the second round in the co-main event of UFC 280, Ricky. Keeping his UFC Bantamweight Championship. And this fight happened right after the Sean O'Malley Piotr Jan fight. And now we can talk about it. Sean O'Malley's the number one ranked contender for that championship against, and I think it's a done deal. Those two are gonna be the next to fight for that belt.
Well,
Aljamain Sterling, Sean O'Malley. At least it should be in my book, right?
right.
If that fight were to happen, who do you give the edge to? You just mentioned it. We don't know. We still have questions on literally both guys, really, right? But one thing we do know is that both these guys deserve to be in this position. I think I'm going to go ahead and say it. Aljamain Sterling deserves to be champ, and Sean O'Malley deserves to be in this fight against him. But who do you give the edge to? Like, who would what happens?
I mean, I think it all depends on O'Malley's wrestling takedown defense. I think. We saw some of it in the Piotr Jan fight. But if he work, let's see if he works, because that's what Aljamain Sterling is all about. It's about the wrestling. So if he works more on his wrestling and his takedown defense and everything like that, I think he has the edge in the stand up, and I think that's where he would give Sterling a lot of problems. So if I have to give the early, I mean, I don't want to come across as a Sterling hater here, but if I had to give the slight edge, I might give it to O'Malley. If these two end up fighting.
Yeah.
What do you think? We still have we have questions about O'Malley's takedown defense. If he works on it and if he works pretty well on that,
I mean,
he has a stand up. He has a stand up advantage.
It seemed like he was already working on it against this fight with Piotr Jan.
Yeah.
Because he had, to me, I thought his takedown offense was pretty good. But Aljamain Sterling is a different beast. That's his bread and butter. Mm-hmm. You hit it 100%. If this was more standing up, then obviously that's more of Sean O'Malley's game. That's more his fighting style. That guy, I think, would knock out someone like TJ Dillashaw. He's that dangerous. But it's all about control time. It's all about how dominant you look. And I feel like this will be a tough match for both guys.
Yeah.
But right now, believe it or not, I think I might give the slight edge to someone like Aljamain Sterling.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because of that weakness, or better yet, because of the strength that he has in the ground game. How many times have we seen where it's when you know someone's a wrestler and the other guy is more of a stand-up, the wrestler almost always wins because they know that all you gotta do is take down and it's it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look at the Ngannou and Gane fight. None of those guys were really true wrestlers. Gane was probably the more overall fight, he was more of the well-rounded fighter. But Ngannou had to get away from his strength in fighting in the stand-up game to wrestle and win the fight.
Yeah, because Gane was a superior striker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's almost it's almost in every fight like that. It always goes the wrestler's way. Right? So,
I think
Sterling is as good as anybody.
Yeah, for sure. I think about Chuck Liddell, man. If we want to go back, I think fighters need to be more like how Chuck Liddell was, man. Chuck Liddell was a wrestler. He was a wrestler, believe it or not. He was really good at the wrestling, but he never used it because he was just as great in the striking, and that's what he preferred to do. Yeah. He only used the wrestling to defend the takedowns because he wanted to stand up and bang. That is what
that's a good point.
That is, yeah. So that's what I think that's what a lot of fighters have to do, man. Especially ones that prefer the striking. You really got to get good at that wrestling, man, because you will get in there with these high level wrestlers that will take you down and hold you down there all night, and will win on points or try to submit you, whatever it is that they want, that their game plan is. So, yeah, when I think of that, man, I think about Chuck Liddell. Like that, they need to be more like how that guy was, man, back in the day.
That's a good point. It's a really, really, really good point, man.
But here's the thing, man. We're expecting that Sean O'Malley gets the next title shot, but that might not be the case.
Really?
Because Henry Cejudo is lurking.
True.
He's back in the USADA testing pool, and his camp are claiming that he'll be ready to fight later on this year. or even early next year. So, and Dana White mentioned him in the post-fight press conference that he wouldn't mind putting Cejudo if he's willing to come back to put him in there against Aljamain Sterling. That's another potential fight.
Yep.
And if he is, man, he's gonna get hot shot straight to the title shot, even over Sean O'Malley. So that's another consideration right there.
That's a really good point, Ricky. Henry, I almost forgot about Henry Cejudo.
Mhm.
Someone who never lost a title, retired. I say a lot of people say early. He was very dominant fighter, very dominant champion.
Yeah.
And for him to come back is great for the sport, great for the division. But
And he's gonna try to be a triple champion too. If he goes for this,
do you think you think he could do something like this, Ricky? I mean, he's been out of the game for how long? It's been years.
It's been about 2 years, yeah.
It's
2 or
been
3
about
years. 2 or
But
3
yeah,
years, yeah.
it's been over 3 years.
Yeah.
Definitely over 3 years. But this guy, we know is as good as anybody. If he can come back, but a fight between him and Sean O'Malley would definitely be one I would love to see. Two guys who are not scared to just stand there and bang, man, and
Yeah.
just
That could be
and
an
just
eventual.
duke it
That
out.
could be that could be an eventual fight if he goes in there and beats Sterling. Because I believe Dana's going to put him in there against Sterling.
You think
If
it'll be Sterling
I
versus?
think he mentioned it. He mentioned it in the conference. So
Jeez.
he'll put him right there, only because he's a former champion and never lost. He retired on top. So it's like the John Jones treatment. He'll get that.
I don't know. I think you give Cejudo a warm up fight before you just throw him into a title. That's just me. I get he's never lost it, but you're going against legit competition, guys who are in the now, who are in their prime. I'm not saying Cejudo isn't in his prime, but you retired for a reason. You know, and I get that he wasn't just sitting on his ass. Like he's been training other fighters. He's he's a gym rat. I get all that, but it's one thing to train and spar, and another thing to actually be in the octagon, and in the limelight,
Yeah.
high level competition.
I don't know. I think he'll do well, man. I think he would. I think he
Well,
would.
you say that because you still have questions on Aljamain Sterling. Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
No. I think he'll do well with anybody, even with Petr Yan or with Sean O'Malley. I think he would do well. I think he would do pretty well. Yeah. So and not to mention you got Marlon Vera, Merab Dvalishvili in the top 5. Which by the way, Merab is Aljamain's training partner. They train together, so I don't know how that's going to work out.
Merab Dvalishvili, who had a fight earlier in that card.
Yeah. So
and looked dominant against Gamrot, Ricky, and really, this guy looks like the real deal to me too. This division is crazy. Let's just say it there. This division is crazy.
Yes. So I'm wondering how that would work out too. Because him and Sterling are training partners. Are they going to be willing to fight each other? Is the big that's the big question right there.
Well, I heard otherwise. I heard one of them will go up because both guys look pretty big for that division. Let's be honest.
Yeah. So you think Dvalishvili will go up to featherweight or something?
I don't know. They were saying even Aljamain Sterling, he cuts a lot of weight to get down to this weight class.
He looked big in there, bro. Again,
he's a natural, yeah.
Compared to Dillashaw, that dude look huge.
He is because he's naturally bigger. And but the Dvalishvili also looks big naturally as well.
Yeah, he does.
When I seen that fight, I didn't believe it was a bantamweight fight. He's got both him and Gamrot look pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta remember too. They come when it's time to weigh in. They come in at the weight limit, but the next fight, they put on 10, 20 pounds. I mean,
that's true.
After they rehydrate and eat and everything, so yeah,
that's true too.
You gotta remember that, yeah. So,
this division is nowhere near as dull as others. This is one to look out for sure. You have a lot of great talent and a lot of great fights, potential fights that can come up. So we'll definitely be here talking about it for sure. You guys are listening to Sports Drip Live alongside my brother Enrique Contreras. My name is Jose Contreras. Talking UFC 280. We just went over the Sean O'Malley Petr Yan fight. We just went over the Aljamain Sterling and TJ Dillashaw fight. Do you think, Ricky, real quick before we move on to the main event, do you think Dillashaw, if he comes back healthy, do you think he will get skyrocketed back up there? Or would he have to prove himself
Not
after a
after this,
performance
man.
like that?
Not at the. It's not so much the performance. I think it's because of him not, I guess, briefing Dana White and the higher ups there about his injury. I think that's gonna come back to bite him. I
Yeah,
don't think he's gonna. I don't think he's gonna get hot shotted to anything. Not for a while. He's probably gonna have to work. I mean, it's just like we just talked about this division, man.
division stacked.
Davishvili, it's stacked. Davishvili, Marlon Vera, Corey Sandhagen, Peter Yan, Sean O'Malley's still in the mix. He's gonna have to work his way back up, man. Especially after not informing him about his injury. So I think that's gonna bite him back in the ass for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree, and it sucks because again, we mentioned there's so many great talent in this division, man. So many great talent in this division, and if you're bringing Henry Cejudo back, that's just another guy you're gonna be right behind.
That's another guy too. Yep.
It's another guy you're gonna be right behind. So hey, but I mean, he was a former champion. He's done it before. He could probably do it again. He just needs to be true to himself and grind like he has been before.
He's
Let's
gonna
move
have
on
to.
to the main event, Rick. This fight I was excited for. Like this had a big fight feel, man. When both these guys were coming out and being introduced, I was like, holy crap, this is actually happening.
Yes.
Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira for the championship,
The vacant championship.
the vacant championship that was once Oliveira's, but because he didn't meet weight his last fight against Justin, it was Justin Gaethje, was it not?
Yeah, it was Justin Gaethje.
Against Justin Gaethje. He stripped, but he ended up winning it. He ended up beating Justin Gaethje. And 155 pound, Ricky. This is the lightweight championship on the line, and Islam Makhachev defeats Charles Oliveira by submission. Crazy outcome in my book because it almost seemed like Oliveira didn't have a chance.
Dude, I just saw it almost right away, man. I mean, the first round, here I thought that Oliveira had the advantage in the striking, but then it looked like Makhachev looked like it, and I think it was because of the threat of that takedown. Because as soon as right when he took Oliveira down, he kept him down there for a while, and even though Oliveira got up, it was a struggle. Oliveira realized that Makhachev was the superior wrestler and the superior on the ground. So you saw it, in the remaining of that round and into the second round that he looked pretty hesitant in there. I saw there was a look in his face that I haven't seen.
Dude, I was thinking the exact same thing. I've never seen that look on his face. That looked like someone who was like, "Holy shit, I'm gonna lose this fight."
Yeah,
I've never.
he
is so stone faced and so dialed in when he fights. This guy is so confident, and he did not look confident whatsoever going into that second round.
No, even though he was rocked a couple of times there by Makhachev, it was not something we haven't seen before, right? I was like, okay, this is a Charles Oliveira fight, right? He's gonna come right back,
right.
But that was not the case. It looked like it was. It looked like it was a done deal. It looked like he realized it early on, and right into that second round, it looked like he tried to go for a knee, then got caught with a right hand, got dropped, and immediately Makhachev went down there, got the arm triangle, and submitted him. And I was like, wow.
This kid is so patient and so strong, man. When he's on top,
I had Oliveira winning this fight. I know you had Makhachev winning this fight.
Look, I'm not gonna lie to you. I bet it on the fight, and I bet it on Oliveira to win. Why? Because he was the underdog, believe it or not. And I was like, "There's no way this guy doesn't win this fight." I'm like, he's been so dominant in every fight he's been in. He's been champion already. And I just for some reason I couldn't see it. I did pick Makhachev last week on this show, but I didn't know if I truly believed it or not. I do now. I do know this guy's legit, man.
Holy shit. Yeah, man. I mean, just incredible. Unbelievable. I mean, he was the superior guy on the ground, and then because of the threat of the takedown, he basically just made Oliveira freeze right in front of him.
Yeah.
Oliveira couldn't get anything going, standing
Nothing.
up. And it looked like Makhachev was the superior striker. Sure enough, he landed that right, got him, submitted him with the arm triangle on the bottom, and that was it, man.
That was it.
And Khabib was right all along. He said, "This is the next guy, top pound for pound fighter in the UFC," and he's making his way up there too, as far as the pound for pound rankings. And he was right, man. He was right. It's like when when Nurmagomedov was on top of the lightweight division, man, he's always said that when he retires that Makhachev was the next guy that was gonna end up taking his place. It took a little bit for Makhachev because he needed to build himself up and work his way up to this title shot. In the meantime, Oliveira was putting on exciting fights, winning fight. I mean, Charles Oliveira, his fights, man, were exciting. The
Dude.
fights that he had once Khabib Nurmagomedov vacated the title. And now that that's over, it looks like we're going to see another dominant run by another Dagestani wrestler.
I'm glad you brought both points up because these both points have to be reiterated. Point one, Islam Makhachev did this the right way. He worked his way up from ground zero and went all the way up, beating competition. Anybody that was put in front of him, he dominated.
Yeah.
Whether it was in the stand up or in the ground game, this is a this is a well-rounded fighter. Overall, well-rounded fighter.
Yep.
And he worked his way up the rankings, worked his way up to this championship fight, and he deserved every bit of that title win, every bit of that championship win he deserved.
Yep.
And on the flip side, your other point, Oliveira also deserved all the success he's had up to this date because he was another guy who worked up and went into the rankings. He was another guy who, for a while, seemed to be like this guy was going to be dominant over this division for a very long time. As soon as Khabib Nurmagomedov retired, Oliveira stepped in and literally took this division by storm.
He did. His fights were some of the most exciting fights that we would see all year because you would see his resiliency, his durability. He would get knocked. You would think that that would be it for him. All of a sudden, he comes back, lands a strike of his own, drops guys, and submits them.
Right.
It's those type of fights that those fan-friendly fights where it's back and forth, it's exciting, it's the fight of the night. That was Charles Oliveira's fights. And for that time being, man, it was quite a ride.
Yeah, it was.
It was quite the ride.
It was. And ever since Khabib Nurmagomedov retired Ricky from mixed martial arts, I mean, you just said it. That was 2 years ago when he was an undefeated champion, walked away after the passing of his father. He said, that was the only fight he had, his last fight, without his father in his corner, and that was also going to be the last. That was the first time and the last time, and he hasn't stepped in, but he has been in Islam Makhachev's side. And you said it. He said this is going to be the next guy. This is like Islam Makhachev reclaiming that lightweight championship was literally destiny. It was fate. From when Nurmagomedov retired and vacated the title, it was Islam Makhachev's fate to pick that title back up. Another fighter who was trained by the father of Khabib Nurmagomedov. Yep. So this story that has been written is one it's amazing. Yep. It's amazing to say the least.
It was also the same thing Nurmagomedov's father said too, that it was going to be Makhachev as well, that one day will become a champion. I guess this solidifies that Nurmagomedov ain't really gonna come back. He's not. You know, as long as Makhachev is on top, you cannot expect to see Khabib if you're even wondering if he would ever come back. Because he's still a very young man. He could still come in if he wants.
Oh, he doesn't 100% if he wanted to.
But he doesn't. Yeah, but he doesn't want to. So I guess for as long as Makhachev is on top, you cannot expect to see this guy coming back for sure.
Ricky, who do you see? Who do you see giving this guy? Look, I know after the fight, right? And we'll get into what happened after the fight. Mm-hmm. But in this division, let's stay in this division for right now. Who can you see being competition or just being someone that could threaten that title run for Islam Makhachev right now?
Oh man, I don't know. I cannot see. I mean, look, Beneil Dariush was on this card. Look, Beneil Dariush was on this card, and he looked really good in his fight.
Yeah,
he looked really good in his fight, But even then, man, I don't think, even if because I'm sure he would eventually get the title shot. I don't think he's gonna get it right away. We'll get into that in a minute. But if Beneil Dariush was to get in there with Islam Makhachev, I think this is he'll be overmatched.
I want to look at the rankings real quick. Who's number? Because you got to think Oliveira is still number one contender now.
He still is. And right. I think he eventually will come back and get another shot. But yeah, man. Look, we got Oliveira 1, Dustin Poirier number 2, who's gonna fight.
Is it Poirier number 2?
Poirier is number 2, but he's fighting Michael Chandler. He's fighting Michael Chandler.
That's gonna be a good fight.
That's gonna be a great fight. There's Justin Gaethje number 3.
I forgot
Rafael
about Dustin
Fiziev.
Poirier.
Rafael Fiziev is another one that's a number 6 that could probably will eventually get a shot too as well. But I don't see anybody beating Islam right now, to be quite honest. Not
I
in this
think
division at least. At least.
I think Poirier is definitely someone who gets a shot right away. But I agree. I don't see him dethroning Islam Makhachev or anybody for that fact. Well, let's buckle in because we're going to be in the Islam Makhachev era I feel for a very long time, just like we were in the Khabib Nurmagomedov era. So
yeah, that's or as far as this division too. But hey, you know what? That's a good segue to get into the what happened after the fight, right?
yes, absolutely. So after the fight, he was asked about Alexander Volkanovski, who was in attendance, and he's what the flyweight is it the flyweight champion that Volkanovski holds right now? Is it
No. Volkanovski is the featherweight champion.
featherweight champ? So Alexander Volkanovski, dominant featherweight champion, someone else who we know is a great pound for pound fighter in this
number
sport.
One. He's number
one.
Number one pound for pound fighter in the UFC.
Rightfully so, because this guy is another one who just goes to war and just beats people up. I mean, his last fight against the Korean Zombie fucked him up. Wasn't even close.
Wasn't even close. Against Max Holloway too, wasn't even close.
Yeah, Max Holloway as well. Yeah, wasn't a close fight whatsoever.
Yeah,
Alexander Volkanovski is probably one of the most dangerous fighters in this sport. Period. Number one ranked pound for pound fighter. Number one ranked pound for pound fighter, and he was called out by Islam Makhachev and Khabib Nurmagomedov after this fight. Ricky,
where's that short guy? Doesn't that what Islam said? Where's that short guy?
Where's that short guy at?
But once he got in there, he didn't look. I mean, yeah, he was shorter, but he didn't look small at all.
Right. The height difference wasn't glaring. Right. I mean, there's a height difference, but it's not bad.
Nah.
And this looks like this could be the next fight between two great fighters. Overall fight. Both these guys are legit.
Yes.
This is a fight I'm definitely interested in.
Yeah, because I believe Khabib. What was it? Because Khabib also said in the post fight interview, he said that we're also going. Now that we got the lightweight title, now we're also going for the pound for pound.
Yeah, pound for pound,
and that's why they ended up calling out Volkanovski, because as of now, Islam is number 3 in the pound for pound rankings. Volkanovski also obviously is number 1. So this fight, man.
Who's number 2?
Number 2 is Adesanya.
Oh well, yeah, that makes sense.
Adesanya is number 2. So, dude, this right here is something to be excited about. Alexander Volkanovski coming up to the lightweight division from featherweight, who's already a champion in the featherweight division, trying to be another double champion in the history of this company.
This is why I love UFC.
Against a guy, Islam Makhachev, who has been dominant in the lightweight division, has finally become the champion. This is why we, when you ask me who in the lightweight division can dethrone Islam, I don't see anybody doing it. I see who could be next, who could be his potential, opponents, but I don't see them dethroning him. Volkanovski, on the other hand, he has potential to dethrone him.
This is why, Ricky, UFC to me has already surpassed boxing, and will stay this way for a very long time, because you have fighters who are on the top of the game, literally on the top of the mountain, and they're not scared to go fight other guys in that caliber, in that level. You have Islam Makhachev, 3rd pound for pound fighter in the world, calling out the number 1 ranked guy, who's not even in his division or his weight class in general. He's not there, but he doesn't care.
No.
You either come to my weight, I'll go to your weight, we'll catch weight. It doesn't matter. I want that pound for pound, number 1 ranked fight position, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. He wants that. You don't get that in boxing. All these guys protecting their streak, protecting their championship, protecting their brand. No, in UFC, give me that guy. I want that guy. I want to prove I'm the number 1 guy in this sport.
Yeah, that's why I'm so frustrated with boxing. Even though there's some talk about Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis possibly fighting in January, but that's just early talks right now. We don't know if that's going to happen.
Right.
But we'll see. But yeah, back to the UFC though. Yeah, that's why I love this sport, man. The biggest and best fights are made in this, at least in this company, in the UFC. So seeing Alexander Volkanovski coming up against Islam Makhachev, I don't know who to pick right now, man. That is
I'm not going
that,
to.
I'm not even gonna try right now. The fight's not even official, but I can
Right.
see. I think it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen, bro. It's gonna
It's
happen.
gonna be a
for sure.
huge fight.
It's gonna,
Huge.
and when it comes time to preview it, man, yeah, that's gonna be one tough pick, man, to see who would win. I mean, Alexander Volkanovski, man, probably one of the best stand-up fighters. Very, very precise.
Oh my
Very, I
god.
mean, and then not to
You
mention he's
can't
pretty
say
good
one
in the
negative
wrestling
thing
too.
about him right now. Neither
No,
of these guys.
neither one of these guys. But but he definitely has a shot at beating Makhachev, and Makhachev has a shot at beating him. That's how close this is to me.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
but
And if one fighter loses, whoever loses that fight, you take nothing away from that. It's not like, okay, I lost to. It's not like, okay, he loses now, he's not as dominant. No. Like they're both guys are gonna come out this fight, regardless who wins, as dominant as they still as dominant as ever. It's if you lose, there's no shame in losing to someone like Volkanovski or Makhachev. So it's like,
no, I mean, if Volkanovski, if he loses, oh well, hey, he can go back to the featherweight division where he has been absolutely dominant. There are some guys that he can end up fighting, and if Makhachev, I think has a lot more to lose right there, right?
I don't know.
Makhachev has a little more to lose right there.
I think Volkanovski does. Because with Makhachev right now is ranked number 3rd in this pound for pound weight class, in this pound for pound class, whatever, right? He's ranked number 3rd. Volkanovski's the number 1 guy.
He's the number 1 guy.
So if Makhachev loses, he's still ranked number 3 in my book. You just lose to the number 1 guy.
But here's the thing, though.
If Volkanovski loses, he loses that number 1 spot. You know what I mean? He's probably still gonna be ranked number 3. He'll drop down to 3, but that you basically just lose that in a way.
Right.
But if this is a championship fight, then we're talking different.
But he's the one coming up.
Right.
You've got to remember that he's the one that's coming up in weight. If Volkanovski loses, he can just it's all good. He'll be just like how Adesanya was when he went up to the light heavyweight division. He lost,
point, yeah.
but then he went back to the division where he was absolutely dominant and continues to be dominant.
Yeah.
Right? That's what Volkanovski would do. He'll just go right back to the featherweight division where he's been winning, dominating, just destroying these guys. He has guys like Yair Rodriguez and Josh Emmett who are waiting in the wings to fight him. And he'll probably do well against them too. So, but if Makhachev loses, I mean, you got to think about it. He loses his title. Volkanovski's going to walk around with 2 belts. Still number 1 pound for a pound. Makhachev has a lot more to lose.
You're right. If this is for the lightweight championship, you're absolutely right, 100%. That Makhachev does have more to lose there.
Yeah.
But regardless, man, you know who does win, Ricky? The fans. The fans win regardless.
We win, yes.
We win no matter what. And credit to those fighters, man, and credit to UFC because again, these guys, they're not scared. They're here to fight, and I love it. I love every bit of it. You guys listen to Sports Drip live alongside my brother Rick Contreras. My name is Rick Contreras. Wow, almost a whole hour just talking about UFC 280, and rightfully so because the card in general, Ricky, was really, really good.
One of the most anticipated ones too that we were looking forward to.
Yep.
And it didn't disappoint.
Let's quickly get into some wrestling before we end the show. AEW, Ace Steel released from the company. I think this is a no-brainer. This should have happened. This should have happened literally the night of. Whoever this guy is and what he's done, I don't give a damn. No, not important at all. He should have been fired that same night. Whether he started it or not, he should have been fired the same night.
Yeah, I mean that this was a no-brainer. I mean, this probably is a sign that this whole investigation that we know nothing about and why it's taking so long. This is probably a sign that this is already it's starting to wrap up. So
yeah,
that's probably one of the that was actually the first big thing that came out.
Yep.
After what, a month and a half, like almost like a little bit over a month that this thing happened in the All Out scrum in Chicago. So that him throwing the chair at, I don't know if it was Matt or Nick Jackson, and then biting Kenny Omega.
Biting Kenny, like why do you bite in a fight, man? Like
I don't know, maybe Omega was trying to choke him out, and
unless you're getting choked out, but Jesus, at that point, just get knocked, just go out.
But that's CM Punk's best friend right there, his trainer, guy that he's that he's been that he's been with since the beginning when he was in Ring of Honor. So that might be a sign of what's to come as far as CM Punk. His best friend getting fired. He was an agent backstage for AEW. Ace Steel was,
Yep.
and they let him go. So this was a no brainer.
CM Punk, Ricky, I'm glad you mentioned him because him and AEW negotiating a buyout. At least these are reports.
These are reports.
Reports that CM Punk and AEW are negotiating a buyout of his contract. You just said it. This is probably very telling as far as this investigation is coming to a close, and also who started this. We all know CM Punk started with his comments and words in the scrum. But as far as who started it backstage, like why the fight even came about, like maybe it was CM Punk's fault. Well, maybe he was the first aggressor here that threw the first punch or whatever you want to say. He was the one that kind of we knew his mouth started it, right? But as far as the fist flying and chairs being thrown and all the biting and all that, the legal stuff, maybe it really was him and Ace Steel that maybe the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega were defending themselves in that situation.
Yeah. I mean, they did come into the room, and it has already been, I guess, it's pretty much agreed upon that CM Punk was the one that threw the first punches. Ace Steel was, I guess, supposedly he's claiming that he ran in there because his wife was also in there watching.
Yeah, his wife was
Larry the dog,
right?
And apparently she had a broken foot, so his argument is that he thought he was trying to defend his wife and also help his friend or whatever. But these are only just reports as far as CM Punk. Nothing has been officially announced, but I would not be surprised if this what ends up doing. I think they said the only holdup is that they're trying to agree on a non-compete clause, a non-compete clause where he doesn't go anywhere, especially WWE,
which is very interesting. Very interesting.
So that's apparently is the holdup, according to these reports, but nothing is official just yet. Before we get into that, I just want to say, man, this sucks, man. You know what? I think CM Punk, when he came into the company, man, I think he did a lot of good. He made it a little interesting. His promos, everything. The program that he was in with MJF. I was there live, and at All Out 2021 in Chicago for his first match in 7 years against Darby Allin.
Yeah.
And man, that I could tell you from being there in that arena, that place exploded for CM Punk. I wish I was there for the United Center, the Last Dance one, but I was there for his first match. Man, the dude was over. The dude was the biggest star in that company. And then for him to do what he did at that scrum, saying all that shit when he should have just kept it to himself or deal with it backstage, man. I mean, it's quite the fall from grace. Especially this guy was given the keys to this company pretty much and made the biggest star, and just like that, it's gone. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I was going to ask you two questions, right? I was going to give you my thoughts on it for these but you already went into the first one, which was how unfortunate is this for AEW, right? When this CM Punk was somebody who was supposed to make this company just as big as WWE. It was like AEW, in my book. This is my point of view, right? They were only WWE's competition because of the talent they had, because you had a legitimate star like CM Punk who was supposed to help carry this organization to WWE like status, right? You need someone like that. You need a superstar like that,
right?
You know what I mean? Not saying they don't have that in someone like Kenny Omega or Bryan Danielson or Jon Moxley. You have stars there, right?
Right.
But CM Punk was a legitimate star who was already star before AEW.
Right.
You know what I mean? And for him coming was a huge deal. And for it to end this way only proves that WWE was right in letting him go. That this guy was nothing but trouble.
Right.
He's literally he gave no crap, Ricky. He was literally in front of Tony Khan talking so much shit about the EVPs and Hangman Adam Page and with just the disrespect for Tony Khan in front of him,
cutting Tony Khan off, making him look like a bitch in front of everybody. Like he doesn't run. Like CM Punk is the one that runs this company, not Tony Khan. It
makes him look it makes him look bad. It puts CM Punk in a bad light. So how unfortunate, like literally, for AEW, that the fact that someone who was supposed to take him to the promised land,
Yeah,
is now in talks of biting on his contract.
it's very very unfortunate, and I believe that Tony Khan is probably kicking himself because he should have done something. This is more. I believe this is more his fault than anything, even more than CM Punk, because once he realized that CM Punk was basically going off the rails, he had the power to stop the whole thing right there. He should have been. He should have
It's
been. He
your
should have been the
company,
boss.
bro.
It's
You
your
know what I mean?
yeah. He should have. He should have just cut CM Punk off right there and be like, okay, well, yeah, this is going off the rails. Thanks everybody for coming, and this scrum is over. Just like that.
Right.
If he would have done that, CM Punk would still be in this company, bro. He would still have the guy that he's been wanting to bring in this company since day one. Since day one, Tony Khan wanted to bring CM Punk into AEW. That was his main goal, to bring this guy back out of out of retirement and into his company. And he did it 2 or 3 years later. He did it 2 years later after he initially started AEW. So he finally achieved it. And now it looks like it literally blew up right there in front of his face. And all he had to do was to stop being a fucking mark for CM Punk. Because if you saw past scrums with him and CM Punk, you could just see, man, this dude's just fucking just salivating just around CM Punk. Oh my god, I got my most favorite wrestler here next to me. He's geeking out, he's marking out or whatever. You know what I mean? That's what that's the impression Tony Khan was giving. If he would have stopped being that and started being a boss, stepped in, stop as soon as he realized CM Punk was going off the rails, ended the scrum right there, none of this would have happened. He would have still had CM Punk. CM Punk would still be with this company, even though he's hurt. He already gotten hurt, so he was going to take some time off anyway. He was going to be gone for a while, but he still would have had CM Punk. He still would have had the Elite, still on his television show. None of this would have went down.
Yeah,
and it has a lot. It has a lot. A lot of the blame goes to Tony Khan, for real.
100%, 100%. And I'm shocked. In my second question, I'm shocked. I'm shocked that I'm actually going to ask you this question, Ricky.
Right.
I thought once this happened, I'm like, okay, you're never going to see CM Punk in any type of wrestling ring again. Or at least you shouldn't, in my book. Is it true that WWE actually has interest in this guy? There's no way.
Triple
After
H.
he left, hold on. There's no way that he left after he left WWE. He's leaving AEW the exact same way he left in WWE. How is nobody learning from this?
Well, here's the thing. All right. Triple H did come out and say that he would be willing to he would welcome the idea of maybe bringing in CM Punk one day. All right.
He's wild.
Now here's the thing. Triple H, we know the history between Triple H and CM Punk. These guys never liked each other. They did not get along when CM Punk was there. CM Punk walked out of the company, got fired on his wedding day. CM Punk has a lot of disdain and hate for this company. Triple H is no big fan of CM Punk, but Triple H rather, he's in the position of power now. He runs this company. He always his model was always doing things that's best for business. Okay, now he's smart enough to know that CM Punk is still a very big draw in professional wrestling.
Right.
And he would want to bring this guy into the company, ideally during the time that WWE has to negotiate another TV rights deal with Fox. Or USA or whatever, right? Or both.
Right.
Now, the only thing is, it's just like you've already kind of alluded to it. Is it the right decision? This guy comes with a lot of baggage, CM Punk. Even though he is pretty good for business, I don't think he's good for the locker room. I don't think if the AEW apparently right now the AEW locker room does not welcome him back. Do you think the WWE locker room, especially after seeing what happened at this scrum and knowing his reputation when he was in WWE, would they welcome him back? Especially guys that are still there, that were there when CM Punk was there.
Right.
Would they want? Would you want to bring that drama? Would you want to bring that drama into that locker room in WWE, where basically right now things are pretty well and harmonious in the WWE locker room right now? Triple H has a lot of goodwill with the boys there, with the fans. if CM Punk went off like that in front of Tony Khan, what makes you think he wouldn't do that in front of a guy that he never liked in Triple H?
Exactly. Tony Khan, you said it. Tony Khan was a mark for him. Tony Khan would literally bend over backwards for someone like CM Punk. Triple H won't.
No.
They don't have great history for each other, so that's why it makes no sense. I hope it's just reports and rumors, but it makes no sense for WWE to bring this guy back. It's it.
Yeah.
In my eyes, CM Punk is done.
Yeah.
Nobody should hire this guy again. I get he's a draw. I get people are. I get there's people that are still going to chant his name, but to me, I'm done. There's no way you disrespect. If I'm Tony Khan, there's no way you disrespect me in front of everybody, like in front of the entire company, fans and all. Right. There's no way you come back. And if you're WWE, there's no way you see that and you're like, oh yeah, that's somebody I want. No.
I mean, you gotta look at the cons here. I mean, the only pro is that he'll bring in ratings, he'll bring in the fans and interest and all this and that. We already see that Triple H is in Tony Khan mode right now. He's just bringing guys back. That's
gonna bite him in the ass. It's gonna bite him in the ass.
CM Punk will obviously be the biggest. Would be the biggest one that he would end up bringing back. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's the only pro though. The con is what I remember when CM Punk and John Moxley were feuding, and one of John Moxley's promos, even though it was a promo to build up their feud, but it was very, very true. If you listen to what he said, the main thing he said was CM Punk, fragile mind, fragile ego, fragile body. All true. All true. His body, look, he's breaking down. Already gotten injured within the last 3 months. He's old. His body's breaking down.
Yep.
Right. His mind. Yep. Right. The first sign that he feels like he's getting screwed over, or he doesn't like his booking or whatever, he's gonna say something about it. He's gonna go off. You hurt his ego, he's gonna go off. So there you go. I don't think it's worth it for Triple H either.
No, I agree with you, Ricky, 100%. And wow, I mean, well, I guess the only time will tell. See what happens here with CM Punk and this. He still hasn't been released yet, so we'll see.
Yeah,
anything can happen. I wouldn't be surprised if he does stay in AEW. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't.
I wouldn't be either. But I definitely don't. It's possible he can go back to WWE, but I think it's very, very not likely at all that he goes back to WWE.
Yeah, I don't want.
Especially after everything that he said, he looked like the biggest hypocrite in the world, and I don't think he could put himself through that. I don't think his ego would allow himself to go back to the company that he hates so much.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, let's be honest. In AEW, he almost made it. He was not that he didn't have a name for himself, but he was making a name.
He made a lot of money.
So anti WWE and how much he hated him. He would say it all the time in his promos. So
it's just baffling, dude. He made Tony Khan was paying him a lot of money, made him the top star of the company, made him the champion, and it still wasn't enough for him. That's crazy. That's crazy. What a fall from grace, man.
Seriously. Yeah. Real quick, Ricky, this wasn't in the notes, but I just wanted to bring it up real quick. NXT was tonight, and Schism, which is a group, right? Almost kind of like Dark Order in a way in AEW. Guys, people who are outcasts, in a group. They're called Schism. They had this character, this person who was mysterious, always wearing a mask. They didn't know who it was. Well, they finally revealed it tonight. It happens to be Ava Raine, daughter of The Rock. We knew she was going to make a debut in AEW.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it was going to be this soon, but she's here, and she's now in that faction. So she's being known as Ava Raine.
I almost did not know who you were talking about when you said Ava Raine, but I know who Simone Johnson is.
And her real name Simone Johnson. She's the daughter of The Rock, but her ring name Ava Raine. Now in this new faction called the Schism in NXT. So we have another
Bloodline Samoan.
The Rock's daughter is in wrestling now. So like I said, I knew this was happening. I know she was in developmental, but now she made her debut in NXT tonight. So shout out to that.
Hey, that's good, man. The only thing I don't like the name, but that's typical WWE. They like to trademark their names, and I think she should have stuck with her name because she's The Rock's daughter for Christ's sakes, man.
Right?
Wouldn't you want to
Yes. Oh, sorry. Yes and no. You don't want to be like, you don't want that shadow over you, especially someone like The Rock. You know what I mean? You want to be your own person. She goes by Ava Raine, Raine, WWE on Instagram. If you guys wanted to, see her and her new faction.
Let's see if she's just as electrifying and great like her father was, man. Let's see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Time will tell.
I mean,
Time
WWE
will
needs
tell.
new star, especially in the women division. So hopefully, she's every bit of talented as her father was. So,
As electrifying.
yeah,
The people's champ. Yep.
absolutely. And that was it. This was an electrifying show. Ricky, thank you once again. Thank you all for watching and tuning in. Sports Drip Live. Great show. Hour and 10 minutes in the book. And we'll be back better than ever next week, just as we always are. Anything you want to say before we leave, Ricky?
I don't know. Just thanks. Thanks again to everybody that has tuned in and is watching our videos on Facebook, YouTube. And yeah, we'll be back next week, man. Having fun doing the show, having fun watching the fights and all the drama going on in pro wrestling. And we're here to talk about it and fill you guys in. So thanks again, guys.
Thanks for watching Sports Drip Live from my brother Enrique Contreras. My name is Jose Contreras. And once again, we will be back next week.